Hello friends, I am yet again going to bed at 12 a.m. Last night I went to bed at 3:45 and I woke up at 6:30, so I only got about, I guess, like 3 hours of sleep. I don't know. I forgot that I had 2 discussion posts for my film class, intermediate darkroom. So I just finished the second one, and I had to do a quiz that was free response, and I took advantage of the fact that it was not timed, because I was like, oh cool, I can do this whenever I want. I can just open it now and then read the questions, think about it, and then do it later. That quiz was rough, and I think it's because of the way he phrased the questions, maybe. It was 119 degrees at one point. So, stay hydrated. And stay inside if you can. Bye. I'm so tired. You guys, can I expose myself real quick? I look exactly the same. I was looking for something to put on my backpack. And I ended up finding this picture of me when I was 7 years old. Look at me now. Wait, I didn't have teeth back then, so. I look exactly the same. Like, it's scary. The only difference was, I think, well, 1, I didn't have teeth, and 2, my skin was smoother. 7-year-old me had flawless skin. Hello. This is my 3rd time filming this segment, but I really want to show you guys my photos. We're going to be looking at some of my photos so far from my assignments in school, which it's only the 4th week, so really there's not that much to show. First, I'll be showing you guys the assignments from this little portfolio. I purchased it at my school store because I came to school with my assignments and I didn't have anywhere to carry the photos. I actually did, but I didn't feel like bringing my big portfolio because it's just a hassle and I didn't want to carry it. So I just put them, don't do this, I just put them in a little manila folder and then put them in my backpack and brought them to school. Yeah, but it's cool. I ended up buying this and it fits in my backpack, so that's great. So these 2 assignments that I'm about to show you are for my intermediate darkroom class, and it's a film photography class. Unfortunately, we're not using 35mm film. We are using large format 4x5 film. Which to me is kind of unnecessary, because why? Like, just why. I thought it was going to be a class where it's like you're using 35mm film, but you know, it's like more advanced, intermediate than the beginning 35mm class. If I wanted to do 4x5, I would have taken all processes. If they even offer that, my community college offered all processes, and I think they used 4x5s. They used some kind of large format camera, and yeah, you didn't have to take it unless you were majoring in fine art photography, I think, but I don't know, or like photo history or something, or like art history or something. Anyways, shockingly enough, this first assignment that we did actually has nothing to do with large format cameras. We just used film paper to make lumen prints, which is basically, the film paper is light sensitive. So you make your composition in the dark. You're supposed to make it in the dark, or like in the dark room with a safe red light, and then put it in a frame so that it's all pressed together. Take it outside, leave it in the sun for a few hours, maybe a day. I don't think I would recommend doing a day because I left mine out for, one of them out for almost a day, and it came out really dark. And then fix it, put it in the fixer solution, wash it, and then boom, there's your lumen print. So let's see what mine turned out to be. Okay, so here is my first composition. It's fake flowers, and I arranged them in a circle, and I sprayed some water onto the paper because I wanted to be experimental, and our professor said, yeah, try it out. It was his suggestion that we try putting water on the paper or the glass, the frame, and yeah, so this is how it turned out. I don't love it. It's alright, but you know, they can't all be winners, and I think that's something I need to learn. They can't all be winners. This one is kind of a winner. The second and last one, which is a feather. And I really like, I'm holding it at an angle because the light is glaring, but I really like how it almost looks 3D, and like the colors just came out really cool. I tried to do a frame around it, so that's what those faint lines are that are creating the rectangle. I used sticks, but as you can also see, maybe, there's tape. This is where the tape is, and over here and up there and on the other side. And I don't like how that came out. But I had to tape it on top of the glass because you can't, obviously you can't put the sticks inside the frame. It's not gonna work. So I had to tape it onto the glass because it was super windy that day and the sticks would have just blown away. But I kind of wish I would have just stuck with the feather, or maybe done like, oh, that would have been cool to do like leaves as a border instead. That would have looked way better. Maybe I'll do one more just for fun. The film paper is expensive though, so you can't just be making lumen prints. I mean, you can, because I mean, I already bought it, but if you're gonna be an artist, it's gonna be expensive. Like, if you're, especially if you're in school for art, like, it's gonna be expensive. So I don't even know what I'm talking about. Use the materials for whatever you want. Just don't waste them, you know? Okay. Next is the big one. I've had this portfolio case since I was in community college. 14 by 17, I think? Yeah, 14 by 17. And these next assignments are for my intermediate digital photography class, which I am completely comfortable with because I started off photography shooting digital. That's all I've been doing. I've never photographed using film, so I am very stressed out to be here right now, but it's gonna be okay. God has me here for a reason, and technically I skipped a few steps, but God's plan. I'm not gonna get into the story because I don't feel like telling it right now, but next video I will share with you guys why, like, technically I'm not even supposed to be in these classes. But anyways, let's find the photos. Oh, before we get into those, this was for our first assignment. I actually made this photo a while ago as part of my series for mental health, but we got to print like a picture basically of whatever we wanted, and I decided to do this one because when I started this series, it was during the pandemic and classes were all online for my community college, so we couldn't come into the studio to print, and my whole series was this, the mental health series. I never got to print them. I could have gone to print them somewhere else, but I didn't. So I decided to use my first print, freebie print, I guess. It wasn't free, but like we had the freedom to choose whatever picture we wanted. I used it for this one, and it is really dark, like the blacks are really dark. We did a critique. When you're printing, you have to make sure all of the areas of the photo are exposed correctly, like even if that means you have to tweak it and save it as a different like file, like blah 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 title print, because how you see it on the screen is not how it's gonna look when you print it. So it came out, the blacks are extremely dark. It's like literally a void, but for the most part I really love it still. Okay. So this assignment was called Photography and Tenderness, and I chose to do basically my relationship with photography, like why I got into it, how I use it, how it benefits me, how it's changed my life, I guess, in a way. It actually has. First photo, it's in black and white, and I do have a shirt on, just a disclaimer. I love this photo a lot. If I were to print it again, we did a critique, and there's the whites, the highlights of where I had my light, are really bright. It's not really showing on camera, but if you see it in person, it's like pretty distracting. So probably like make a mask there and like maybe here, and bring that down and reprint. And I called this one Reconcile. I'm brushing my hair. There's a brush right here and right here. Obviously, I'm looking in a mirror. And yeah, I called this one Reconcile because one of the ways I use photography is a way to, one, learn about myself, learn new things about myself, and to reconcile with things that I previously have had trouble accepting, like as a form, kind of as a form of therapy. Like I think a lot of artists use their creations as a form of therapy. And one of the things that photography actually didn't teach me, but a specific challenge I had growing up was accepting my hair, which a lot of black women have this story or a similar one. Like my elementary school, a lot of the girls like didn't have curly hair, and if they did, it was like looser curls, or like they just had straight hair, like waves or whatever. And like I had a problem with my hair being the way it is. I was like, whenever I would have to wear my hair out, I would feel like insecure. I remember specifically one picture day, my mom did my hair in 2 ponytails, and they were like puffs, and then I think they had like little barrettes at the bottom. And one of the girls came up and like I think she touched my hair, she pointed it out or something. She was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so puffy." And I don't think she meant it as an insult. I mean, I don't know, she may have kids, that's it. But like it made me feel like some type of way in that moment. I was just like, bruh, why does my hair have to look like this? And it just took a while for me to like start to fully accept my hair. It was like a process, like, and I don't think it really started until I got to high school. Anyways, that was something I had to come to terms with, was accepting the hair that God gave me and like actually like genuinely loving it. And so even though I didn't learn that process through like self-portraits and photographing myself, I learned other things about myself that I'm trying to accept, and like new things that make me just like oh, like I love this part of myself, you know what I mean? So I don't know. Coming to terms with loving every part of journey. I think that's what my journey is with photography. And that's one of the reasons I really love self-portrait. Hello, you guys. I just wanted to give a bit more clarification that even though this photo is kind of recounting an experience or a challenge that I already accepted in the past, I'm saying that I still use photography as a way to accept other things about myself. Like the process is still there. And so I guess this picture is just narrating the process of reconciliation, even though in this specific story, I didn't learn like how to accept my hair as I was doing self-portraits, but I use self-portraits to accept other things about myself. That's what I was trying to say. So hopefully that makes more sense. The reason I called it loose is because with my experience with photography, it's not just a place where I am reconciling with my past or present, but that process includes being vulnerable, and sometimes that looks a little crazy, hence the long exposure technique to make this picture look kind of crazy and kind of scary and chaotic. But you know what, that's my process, and I love it. I love, even though in the moment sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, you're thinking about like whatever the intention is behind that photo, and it can be draining, and sometimes you might have to like even stop and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this later, try again tomorrow. But at the end of the day, it is liberating, and hence the name loose, because you're loosing, you're releasing, you're letting go of those emotions. I'm saying you're as if other people go through this, but this is my process. If you relate to it, that's cool. But in case you don't, I will try to make this more personal. Releasing those emotions that I can't always put into words, or maybe I just feel like words aren't enough. And so I use my self-portraits to just let go and go crazy and be free and be raw. And it's like really multi-layered for me because I go back afterwards and I edit, and that's sometimes where I learn. Like sometimes I'm not learning about different parts of myself as I'm shooting, but like it'll come later, like, and a meaning for the photo will come later. Like I'll be drawn to it just visually, but I'm like, well, I don't really know what this picture means, but there's like this connection I have with the photo. Hello, I'm back. Like 2 days later to finish filming this segment because I had stuff to do as I was filming the other night. Basically, where I was leaving off, sometimes those lessons aren't made apparent until I start editing. Looking at the photo, I'm like, this is interesting. Like, what's the story behind this? And then that story or that lesson will come as I'm working with the photo and taking time to look at it and all of its elements. So I don't know if any of this is making sense. The first person to validate me on this was literally like a couple weeks ago when we did introductions for one of my classes, and I said something along the lines of like, I was talking about one of my pictures and I said, I'm not sure what this one really means yet. Sometimes I don't find out till later. And he was like, oh, sometimes that's how it goes. And I was like, wow, I've never I've never had someone, relate to that process or like agree that, that's a possibility. So maybe I'm not as crazy as I thought. Let's go to the last photo. Okay, so this is the last picture. Okay, there's not as much of a glare today because I'm using natural light, but yes, I don't have a name for this one yet. closer look. You can't really see the details of it. But I did pretty minimal editing on it. That rawness that I like to communicate in a lot of my self-portraits, even portraits of other people. It's just been a while since I've done a photo shoot with someone other than myself. Like, once the pandemic hit and we had to like stay home, I was like, okay, I'm about to be my own client, and I ended up loving it. And now I'm like, do I need to go and photograph other people? Like, do I have to do that? I still want to. Just, yeah, portraiture. I love taking pictures of people in general because I love finding different ways to communicate people's story and just the human experience, I guess. Sorry I keep coming back to re-record, but I was editing and then I realized, like, Journey, you're getting like so off track with whatever it is you're trying to say. I started talking about like why I like to shoot portraits, but I need to talk about the photo. And I think the reason I couldn't stay on track is because I really don't know what that last photo means yet, because it didn't turn out how I initially intended it to. It was supposed to be called Transformation, but the idea I had in my head for that photo, I was editing it and I was like, I don't like where this is going. I don't like how this looks. I was kind of trying to make it a composite, but the elements I was adding didn't really like mesh well with that photo and how it like blended visually with the other two. And so I just kind of just left it alone. I just like adjusted the exposure in certain places. But the vision for Transformation, if it would have came out how the initial plan was to talk about how I personally view photography as a way to transform scenes or recreate moments that you may not have realized until like you actually take your camera out and take a photo of whatever is happening. We walk by different moments and we kind of see them maybe initially as a whole, but then like with your camera, you're capturing a specific moment or a specific aspect if you're doing portraiture of a person that is telling a story through whatever lighting is available, whatever lighting you may have set up if you're doing studio work. And that light kind of transforms the scene. Just technically, thinking from a technical aspect, how light transforms the way a scene looks or the way a person looks. You might be highlighting a specific feature of them, showing a certain area if you're doing like landscape or architecture photography, interior photography, using the lighting to maybe make it look more dramatic or something. And it's kind of transformative. And for me, with my portraits, I see using the light to transform, I guess, myself into, not into different versions of myself, but just using the light to highlight different aspects of who I am, you know. And it's almost like a transformative process in a visual sense, because sometimes some of my portraits are pretty ambiguous, and if you don't know me in real life or you're not familiar with seeing my face, you may look at some of my portraits and be like, who is that? Like, this is not the same person as that person. And so it's like a transformation, if that makes sense. It still isn't making sense. And this, I really feel like this wasn't communicated well in the way that this photo finally turned out. I used kind of a spotlight to create that strip of light that's going from like my shoulder up to like half of my face. And so in that way, it's kind of like reshaping, I guess, what I look like as a person, or just like focusing on a specific part of my face. I don't really feel like it did the job. And so I think I need to figure out a different meaning for that photo. And so that's one of those pictures where it's like, I don't really know what this one means yet. But because of the very limited editing I did on it. If you look closer, like if I insert a digital file into this video of that picture, you can kind of see like I was going through a breakout at the time, which is normal. It ties into that theme of like being raw, vulnerable with my other two photos because I didn't like edit out the breakouts I have, or like the little beauty marks I have on my face, or like the scars from past breakouts and stuff like that. But that just feels like too, I don't want to say too superficial, because it's important to like to show those things. If like rawness is a theme that you're trying to communicate. Sorry for my cat. But I feel like there's more to be said and I just haven't figured it out yet. So tell me what you guys think of that last one and how you think it ties into, you know, what you got from the other two photos, and yeah, how it relates to photography and tenderness, which was I'm not trying to mock my professor. I thought it was actually a pretty cool assignment because it kind of gave us a lot of room to just interpret it the way we wanted it to be interpreted. Like there were a lot of different ways you could communicate the criteria that she gave in the assignment. Does that make sense? Like how you could relate it to your own experience and still have it make sense in the realm of the assignment. So I love that. I love that with assignments. I love when they give you like enough room to kind of just do whatever you want, but still like have a chance to tie it back to what the original goal was. I'll try to include a little snapshot of what the actual assignment was. And you guys can let me know what you think. You don't have to be an artist to give your input, and I don't know. When it comes to my artwork, I don't think I bruise easily as far as like the input that other people have to give. So sorry about my cat being in here and disrupting this last part of the video, but that's what he does because he wants to have his snack an hour early, so he's gonna be crying for an hour. So I'm gonna go. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.